When Ethan first moved into his new dorm room, he expected the usual: cheap furniture, flickering lights, and the smell of instant noodles hanging in the air. What he did not expect was an alien roommate. The University of New Terra had a long list of students from different planets, but humans usually lived with other humans. Somehow, by a glitch in the system, or maybe fate, Ethan's name got paired with someone from the Andromeda sector. Her name was Lyra. No last name, no details, just Lyra. The first time he saw her, he froze at the door. She was tall and slender, with smooth silver skin that shimmered like moonlight. Her eyes glowed faintly. A color between blue and white, and thin veins of light moved under her skin when she spoke. Her voice was calm, almost musical, as if each word carried a melody from another world. "You must be Ethan," she said, not smiling, just observing him like he was a strange new species. "Yeah," he muttered, awkwardly scratching his head. "I guess we're roommates." Lyra nodded once, as if confirming a mission order. She turned back to unpacking her small metallic case, which folded itself neatly into a floating cube beside her bed. Ethan sat on his bed, pretending not to stare, but he couldn't help it. Everything about her was so different. Her skin caught the light and scattered it across the walls. Her movements were slow, controlled, like she was afraid to break something fragile. She didn't breathe the way he did either. More like she absorbed the air and released it in faint glows through the lines on her arms. The silence between them grew thick. "So," Ethan tried to start a conversation. "What do you, study?" "Humanity," she replied simply. He blinked. "You mean like sociology?" "No," she said, turning her glowing eyes toward him. "Just humanity." That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. Lyra didn't snore or move, but she emitted a soft hum, like a faint vibration through the floor. The sound wasn't loud, but it crawled into his mind and refused to leave. When he opened his eyes, he saw her standing near the window, looking out at the sky. The stars reflected in her eyes like tiny galaxies. For a moment, she looked heartbreakingly lonely. Ethan sat up. "Hey, you okay?" She didn't turn around. "Your world is very noisy. I'm just listening for home." Her voice trembled slightly, the only sign of emotion he had seen all day. He wanted to say something comforting. But what do you say to someone who's from another galaxy? He just mumbled, "Well, hope you get a good signal." That made her glance back, and for the first time a faint smile tugged at her lips. "Humans. Always making jokes when you're afraid." "I'm not afraid," Ethan lied. Lyra tilted her head, studying him again. "Yes, you are. But that's good. Fear means your heart still feels alive." And just like that, she turned back to the stars. Ethan lay awake long after, staring at the ceiling. Her words echoed in his head. He didn't know if it was fear or curiosity keeping him awake, but something about her made his chest feel heavy. Days turned into weeks. Lyra followed a routine. She attended her classes quietly, never spoke much, and returned every evening to sit by the window. Sometimes she'd hum that same tone that made the air tremble. Other nights she'd stare at her hands as if trying to remember how they worked. Once Ethan asked her why she always stared at the stars. "Because they remind me where I came from," she said softly. "And how far away it feels now?" Ethan nodded. "You miss home." She looked at him for a long moment. "Do you not?" "I guess I do. But my home's just a few miles away." "Yours is what, light years?" "Yes," she whispered. "And still it hurts the same." There was something about the way she said it that made Ethan's chest tighten. In that small room, surrounded by flickering lights and cold metal, two beings from different worlds shared something simple: loneliness. And that night, when Ethan turned off the lamp, he could still see her faintly glowing in the dark, sitting by the window, watching the stars like she was waiting for someone to call her back. He didn't know then that the call would come soon. And when it did, he would wish he had never fallen asleep that night. The night was quiet, too quiet. Outside the dorm window, the city slept under the cold light of the moon. Ethan had fallen asleep late, his headphones still hanging around his neck, his notebook half open with notes from class. Everything seemed peaceful, until the humming began again. At first it was faint, like the sound of air moving through a tunnel. Then it grew louder, deeper, almost like the heartbeat of the room itself. Ethan's eyes shot open. The glow was back. He turned his head slowly. Lyra wasn't in her bed. The air shimmered with blue light. She stood in the middle of the room, her bare feet floating a few inches above the floor. Her silver skin shone brighter than ever, and strange patterns of light danced around her like living fireflies. Her eyes were closed, her lips moving silently, whispering words in a language he couldn't understand. Ethan froze. Every hair on his arm stood up. He wanted to call her name, but the words stuck in his throat. The air itself felt thick, vibrating with invisible energy. His phone lying beside him flickered and died. "Lyra," he finally whispered, her body tensed. The floating symbols around her pulsed faster, as if reacting to his voice. Then all at once her eyes opened and the lights exploded in every direction. The dorm lights went out. The walls shook. Ethan covered his face, heart pounding like thunder. When the room finally went dark again, he heard her gasp and collapse to the floor. He jumped from his bed and ran to her. She was trembling, her glow fading, her breath uneven. "What was that?" he asked, kneeling beside her. "Lyra, talk to me." Her eyes were glassy, distant, like she was somewhere else entirely. Then slowly she focused on him and whispered, "You shouldn't have seen that." "What do you mean? Are you okay?" "You were floating." She sat up weakly, holding her arm. "It's a connection ritual, a signal to the home cluster. I tried to call them, but..." Her voice broke. "I wasn't supposed to," Ethan frowned. "Why not? You're homesick. You have every right to call your people." Her face tightened with fear. "You don't understand. On my world, contact with humans is restricted. Emotional attachment is considered corruption." "Corruption?" Ethan echoed, stunned. "You mean just being friends with a human?" She nodded slowly. "Yes, they believe emotions cloud our logic. If they detect I've been here too long, they will recall me and erase the part of me that remembers you." The words hit Ethan like a punch to the chest. "Erase you? What are you talking about?" Lyra looked down, her hands shaking. "My kind are linked to a central memory web. When we return, our minds are cleaned. Every trace of connection removed. It's how they keep us pure." He couldn't believe it. She spoke so calmly, but her eyes were full of quiet pain. "So you can't even remember people you care about?" he asked softly. Her lips trembled. "We're not supposed to care." The silence that followed was heavy, almost suffocating. Ethan wanted to say something, to comfort her, but no words came. She looked so fragile now, so human despite her glowing skin. Finally, she whispered, "They will come for me if they detect the signal. I shouldn't have tried." "Then we'll stop them," he said quickly. Lyra shook her head. "You can't stop them, Ethan. They cross stars like you cross streets. They will erase everything." Ethan clenched his fists. "Then why even try to call them?" Tears gathered in her silver eyes, shining like liquid light. "Because I was afraid," she said. "Afraid of forgetting you before they make me." Ethan's throat tightened. He didn't know what to say. The girl from another world, the one who studied humanity as an experiment, had finally felt something human herself. He gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "You're not alone, Lyra, not anymore." Her eyes met his. There was warmth in them, a fragile spark that shouldn't have existed between two species. But before she could reply, the window flashed with a sudden streak of light across the sky. Both of them turned to look. A shadow moved across the moon, silent, enormous, almost invisible, but Ethan saw it. "A ship?" Lyra's voice trembled. "It's too late." Ethan stared at her. "What do you mean?" "They found me." The glow under her skin began to pulse faster, like a warning signal. She grabbed his arm, her fingers cold and trembling. "If they trace me here," she said, "they'll see you too." "What happens then?" Ethan asked, his voice shaking. Lyra's glowing eyes filled with sorrow. "Then neither of us will remember this night." The night after the strange glow, Ethan couldn't think straight. He sat at his desk, pretending to study, but his mind was trapped in the memory of what he saw. The floating lights, the sound, and the terror in Lyra's eyes when she said, "They found me." Lyra hadn't spoken all day. She skipped her classes and kept the blinds closed. The room, once filled with quiet humming, now felt hollow, like it was holding its breath. Ethan wanted to ask her more, but every time he tried, she would simply say, "It's safer if we don't talk." That night, the rain fell hard, tapping against the window like tiny fingers. Ethan sat on his bed, listening to the sound. The air felt charged again, heavy with something unseen. Lyra stood near the window, her silver skin faintly glowing in the darkness. She hadn't moved for hours. "Lyra," Ethan finally said, his voice low, "you have to tell me what's going on." What happens if they come here? She didn't look at him. Her reflection in the glass looked distant, almost fading. They'll take me back, she whispered, and they'll remove everything connected to you. From me? And from this place? Ethan frowned. From this place? You mean Earth? Her eyes met his, shimmering like liquid light. If they think I've corrupted the balance, they'll cleanse everything within their reach. They don't destroy out of hate, Ethan, they erase out of fear. Fear of what? Of what humans make us feel. Her voice broke on that last word. Ethan stood up and took a slow step closer. Lyra, he said softly. What do you feel? She closed her eyes. For a long moment she said nothing. Then in a trembling voice she whispered, I feel alive. That one word hung in the air like fragile glass. Before Ethan could say anything else, a soft beeping sound filled the room. Lyra's bracelet, a thin metallic band she always wore, was flashing red. Her face went pale. No, she said under her breath, pressing it. No. What is that? Ethan asked, stepping closer. They've detected the signal I sent. They're tracing it here. Ethan's stomach twisted. You said it was forbidden. Can't you shut it off? Lyra was shaking now. I can't. Once they lock onto a pulse, they follow until it ends. Until I end. Her glow flickered, dimming and brightening like a dying star. Ethan didn't understand how, but he could feel her fear as if it were his own. We have to hide you, he said, grabbing his jacket. We can go somewhere. Nowhere is far enough, she interrupted. They travel through dimensions, not space. They don't arrive, they appear. As if on cue, the rain outside stopped. Everything became silent. Even the city noise, cars, sirens, people all vanished. The world held its breath, then a low hum shook the air. The lights in the room flickered. A faint glow appeared in the sky outside the window, growing brighter, spreading across the clouds. Ethan rushed to the window. What is that? Lyra's voice trembled. The recall fleet. The clouds split open, revealing a massive shape in the sky, sleek, silver, and alive with blue light. It wasn't like the ships humans built. It didn't have engines or panels. It looked like a living creature made of glass and lightning. Ethan stared in awe and terror. That's your people? She nodded slowly, tears falling silently down her cheeks. They've come for me. Ethan turned toward her. Then run, hide. Lyra didn't move. If I run, they'll see you as part of the contamination. They'll take you too. I don't care, Ethan shouted. You think I'll let them erase you? No way. Lyra took a shaky step toward him. Ethan, listen to me. You have to survive. Humans must keep existing, feeling, loving, hoping. That's what they fear most, he shook his head. And what about you? What happens to you? I'll go back, she whispered. Maybe they'll believe I never felt anything. He clenched his fists. And if they don't? Lyra looked at him with a sad smile. Then I'll remember you anyway. Even if it kills me. The glow outside grew brighter, flooding the room in blinding light. The floor vibrated as a deep hum filled the air again. Lyra's body began to lift slightly off the ground, pulled by some invisible force. Ethan reached for her hand, holding tight. I'm not letting go. Her eyes glowed, terrified but soft. You can't fight them, he held tighter. Then they'll have to fight me too. For a moment, the world froze, the human and the alien, holding on to each other while the sky opened above them. And in that fragile second before the light consumed everything, Lyra whispered something in her native tongue, a language Ethan didn't understand but somehow felt deep inside his chest. The meaning was clear. I wish I was human. Then, the beam descended. The sky outside had turned into a storm of light. Ethan's room shook as a low hum rolled through the air, vibrating deep into his bones. The windows flickered with flashes of blue and white as the alien ship descended silently above the city. It didn't roar like human engines. It whispered like a god breathing. Ethan stood frozen, his hand still gripping Lyra's. She was trembling, her glow fading and returning in waves, like her body was caught between two worlds. Lyra, he said softly. What are they going to do? She swallowed hard, her voice shaking. They'll take me back. They'll erase my link to this world. They'll erase you from me. He shook his head. No, I won't let them. The ceiling began to glow. A circular beam of blue light appeared, perfectly silent, scanning the room. Papers lifted from the desk, floating upward as if gravity had forgotten its duty. Lyra's hair rose, shimmering in the air. "They've locked onto me," she whispered. "Ethan, listen carefully. When they take me, don't try to follow. Don't speak. They'll think you're a threat." But Ethan couldn't listen. His chest ached too much. He couldn't let her just be taken like that. Not after everything she'd said, not after the way she looked at him last night, so human, so afraid. The beam brightened. Lyra's body began to lift. "Ethan!" she cried, reaching toward him. He lunged forward, grabbing her wrist with both hands. The energy burned against his skin, but he refused to let go. "I'm not losing you." The air crackled. The floor split slightly under the force. His muscles screamed in pain as the beam tried to pull her away. "Let go," she begged. "You'll die." "Not if you stay," he shouted. The blue light pulsed brighter, wrapping around both of them now. Ethan felt his feet leaving the ground. For a moment they were both suspended in the beam, human and alien, two silhouettes locked together in defiance. Then a voice filled the room. It wasn't human. It wasn't even a sound. It was inside their heads, cold and emotionless. "Lyra of the 8th Spiral, you have violated Directive 9. Return immediately for cleansing." Lyra's face twisted in pain. "No, I won't go back." "Not like before." Resistance confirmed. Memory contamination detected. Preparing purge. Ethan felt a sharp pressure inside his skull, like invisible hands trying to pry into his mind. He screamed and dropped to his knees, clutching his head. Lyra gasped, tears forming in her glowing eyes. "Stop, he's innocent." Contamination shared. Both subjects compromised. "No," she cried again, her voice breaking. "Please take me, not him." For a moment the humming stopped. The beam flickered. Then to Ethan's horror it shifted, locking fully onto Lyra. Her body began to dissolve into light starting from her feet. She looked down at her hands, panic filling her eyes. "Ethan," she whispered, voice trembling. "I can't fight them. They're rewriting me." He crawled toward her, ignoring the pain. "I'll find a way. I promise." "You can't," she said softly, tears falling like tiny stars. "But you can remember me." That's what they fear most. Memory that lives beyond control. Her fingers touched his face, leaving glowing marks that burned but didn't hurt. Her touch was warm, full of everything words couldn't say. Ethan's heart broke as she smiled through her tears. "You made me feel what no one from my world ever did. You made me human. Lyra, please." The light grew blinding. He couldn't see, couldn't breathe. His hand reached out, but she was fading, her body becoming pure radiance. "I'll always find you," he whispered, his voice shaking. Her last words came like a soft echo. "Then I'll always be waiting." The beam flashed once more and she was gone. The silence that followed was unbearable. The ship above the city vanished as suddenly as it came, leaving only faint clouds of glowing dust falling from the sky. Ethan fell to his knees, staring at the spot where she'd stood. His hands still glowed faintly where she had touched him. He pressed them to his chest, his breath coming in short, broken gasps. Outside, alarms started to blare. People were shouting about strange lights and government lockdowns. But Ethan heard none of it. He sat in the darkness, the faint hum of the ship still echoing in his bones, and for the first time in his life, he realized how small humanity was, how fragile and yet how strong it could be. Because somewhere beyond the stars, a silver-skinned girl had chosen to remember, and a human boy refused to forget. The morning after the light, the world felt wrong. The sky was pale and still. The air smelled of burnt metal. The city below buzzed with confused noise, sirens, voices, reporters shouting about an unexplained flash over the university. But Ethan heard none of it. He woke up on the floor of his dorm room, his body aching, his mind heavy like he'd been pulled apart and put back together again. The place looked destroyed. The walls were cracked, furniture overturned, and the ceiling lights were completely melted. For a few seconds, he couldn't even remember what happened. Then it hit him like a blade through his chest. Lyra. He sat up fast, searching the room as if she might still be there, by the window, glowing softly, watching the stars. But there was only dust. Only silence. "Lyra," he called out, his voice echoing in the broken room. No answer. He pressed his palms to his face, trying not to lose control. But something stopped him cold. His hands were glowing. Ethan stared in shock. Under his skin, faint blue patterns pulsed slowly. Thin, moving lines like tiny circuits of light. They glowed just like Lyra's veins had. His breath caught. What is this? He stumbled to the mirror above his desk. His reflection looked like him, but not quite. The glowing marks crawled up his forearms, faint symbols written in her language. They were alive, shifting slowly, forming and reforming like they were breathing through him. Ethan touched one symbol. The moment his fingers brushed it, he heard a faint voice in his head, soft like an echo from far away. Ethan. He froze. Lyra, silence. Then again, faintly, don't be afraid. His heart raced. The voice wasn't outside. It was inside him, gentle, full of warmth. Lyra, where are you? He whispered. Between, her voice said weakly. They tried to erase me, but I held on to you. I left a part of me inside your light. Ethan's throat tightened. You mean this? He raised his glowing hand. It's my memory. My heart. It's all I could save. He closed his eyes, tears slipping down his face. You're alive? Not the way I was, she said softly. But I'm not gone. Her voice cracked with pain. He could almost feel it, like his chest was burning from the inside. What did they do to you? They took me back. They tried to erase everything human in me. But love doesn't erase, Ethan. It changes form. Her words hit him deeper than anything he'd ever heard. He wanted to reach through that voice, to hold her, to tell her she wasn't alone. You said they'd erase your memory, he whispered. But you still remember me. A soft laugh echoed in his head. Sad, beautiful, familiar. They can erase the mind, not the soul. Ethan wiped his eyes. I'll find a way to bring you back. I promise. You can't. Watch me, he said, his voice firm now, burning with determination. Humans always find a way. Even when the universe says no. There was silence for a moment, and then her voice came again, quieter this time. Then I'll be waiting wherever I am. The glow in his hands faded slowly, leaving only faint traces of light like a heartbeat beneath the skin. Ethan looked around the room again, every corner whispering with her memory. The window she always stood by, the hum she used to make at night. The way her smile never quite reached her eyes. He sat by the window now, where she once sat staring up at the pale morning sky. The ship was gone, but he could still see faint silver dust floating high above the clouds. For a moment, he imagined her up there, somewhere far beyond his reach, trapped among the stars but still watching him through the light she left behind. He whispered, I'll never forget you, Lyra. A soft pulse of light flickered under his skin in reply. Like her saying, I know. Ethan pressed his glowing palm against the glass. Outside the sun was rising, slowly, gently, painting gold over the broken city. The warmth hit his face, and for the first time since she vanished, he felt something other than pain. He felt purpose. Because he realized something. Maybe Lyra didn't save herself, but she saved him. And as the morning light spread through the sky, Ethan made a silent vow. He would learn everything about her world. He would study the stars she came from. And one day, somehow, he would reach her, even if he had to cross galaxies to do it. Days turned into weeks. Weeks into months. But Ethan never stopped feeling the faint hum beneath his skin, the soft blue glow that appeared every night when he looked at the stars. It wasn't just a mark anymore. It was a heartbeat. Her heartbeat. He stopped going to his classes. He stopped answering messages from his friends. The world around him seemed dull, distant, meaningless. Every night he sat by the window with his hand pressed against the glass, whispering into the silence, hoping to hear her voice again. Lyra, he'd say softly, can you hear me? Sometimes the light under his skin flickered like a quiet yes. Sometimes it didn't. But Ethan didn't give up. He began studying alien science. Everything he could find about energy signatures, quantum links, and neural resonance. His room turned into a laboratory of chaos. Books, devices, and data pads covered every inch. He hacked into university databases, downloaded classified research, and even broke into a restricted physics lab at night to use the scanners. He didn't care about the rules anymore. He just wanted her back. One night, while staring at the faint marks on his arm under the blue glow of his laptop, he noticed something strange. The pattern wasn't random. It pulsed in rhythm like a signal repeating itself over and over. A message. Ethan's heart raced. He connected his wrist to a sensor and began decoding the pulses. It took him hours, his eyes dry and red, but by dawn he had it translated into symbols, and those symbols formed a map. a star map. It pointed to a single location, far beyond known space. A region his database called Sector N41, and under it, written in alien script, was one word he recognized from Lyra's lessons: home. He sat there trembling. It was her planet. That night, Ethan recorded everything. He packed his notes, his small scanner, and the device that still glowed faintly with her mark. He sent hundreds of messages to research networks and alien communication channels, begging for anyone who could help him reach Sector N41. Days later, a reply came from someone calling themselves the Traveler. You're not the first to hear the call of the Lyrans. Their kind vanished years ago, but if one of them marked you, then you're carrying something sacred. Ethan's fingers shook as he typed back.
Can you help me reach them?
The Traveler sent coordinates to a space station near the outer rim of Earth's defense boundary. It was dangerous, restricted. Humans weren't allowed beyond that line without authorization. Ethan didn't care. He built a small shuttle from scrap modules he found in the old labs. It was ugly, barely functional, but it worked. On the night he left Earth, the stars looked brighter than ever. He looked down at the planet one last time, then at the small light glowing beneath his skin. "Guide me, Lyra," he whispered. "I'm coming." The ship roared as it left the atmosphere, breaking through the clouds like a streak of fire. Ethan felt his heart pounding, his mind torn between fear and hope. The journey through deep space was long and silent. The hum of the engines was the only sound. Sometimes when he closed his eyes, he could hear her voice again, faint, whispering like wind through glass. "You shouldn't have come this far, Ethan." He smiled through his exhaustion. "You knew I would." The further he went, the stronger the marks on his skin glowed. The blue light began spreading across his chest, his neck, warm and alive, like her essence was awakening. Finally, the coordinates brought him to the edge of a nebula, shimmering violet clouds swirling like living mist, and there in the heart of it was something massive, a ruined ship. It floated silently, broken in half, pieces drifting around it like frozen tears. The design was unmistakable, smooth silver metal that shimmered faintly with blue veins, the same light as Lyra's. Ethan's breath caught. "Lyra's people." He maneuvered his ship closer. As he entered the wreck, strange symbols flickered along the walls, reacting to his presence. The light under his skin pulsed faster, syncing with the ancient systems. Then he saw it, a cryopod, cracked, but still glowing faintly. And inside, a figure, pale skin, faint blue veins, hair that shimmered silver even in the dim light. "Lyra," he whispered, barely breathing. The scanner beeped. Faint life signs, weak but real. His heart exploded with emotion. He slammed the console, activating emergency power. "Stay with me, Lyra, please," the pod hissed. The frost melted slowly. Her eyes fluttered open, dim, tired, but unmistakably hers. For a second, she stared blankly. Then her gaze focused on him. "Ethan," she whispered, her voice cracked and fragile. He laughed and cried at once, touching the glass. "I told you I'd find you." Her lips trembled. "You came. Across the stars." He nodded, tears falling freely now. "You left a part of you in me. It led me back." The light under his skin and the glow from her pod began to merge, pulsing in perfect rhythm. For the first time since she vanished, she smiled, weak but real. And in that moment, the human and the alien heartbeat as one again. The cryopod hissed as the last layer of frost melted away. Lyra's silver skin glowed faintly, weaker than before but alive. Her blue veins pulsed slowly like soft lightning. Ethan reached for her hand the moment she emerged, and she let him hold it, trembling against his warmth. "You came," she whispered, voice still fragile. "You actually came." "I told you I would," Ethan said, his eyes shining with tears. "I promised I'd find you. No matter the stars, no matter how far." Lyra looked at him, her glowing eyes softening, full of wonder and fear. "You don't know what you've done," she said softly. "If the recall fleet finds me here, They won't," Ethan interrupted firmly. "I won't let them take you back. Not after all this." For the first time since he had met her, Lyra hesitated. Her lips trembled and a faint tear glowed down her cheek. "Humans are not supposed to survive contact like this," she whispered. "Then maybe that's why we're human," Ethan said, smiling through his tears. "We survive. We feel, we fight, and we don't give up on the ones we care about." Her eyes widened. For a moment, the stoic alien in her seemed to melt, replaced by someone vulnerable, someone human. The pod's sensors began to beep urgently. Ethan turned and saw the faint shimmer of a ship approaching, a recall fleet vessel, silent but enormous, sliding through the nebula. Lyra's face went pale. "They're here," she said, panic flickering in her glow. Ethan gripped her hand tighter. "Then we fight together. We don't run." Lyra hesitated, her mind torn between fear and instinct. Then, slowly, she nodded. "I will try." Ethan activated the shuttle's communication system. With shaky hands, he sent a message out into the nebula. Not words, but pulses. Glowing signals encoded with the rhythm of Lyra's mark. Their combined resonance. The recall fleet paused, sensing the signal, scanning. Confused by the human who had bridged the alien pulse, Lyra looked at him in shock. "You can do that?" Ethan smiled faintly, even as the ship trembled. "Humans don't just survive, Lyra, we adapt. And sometimes, we surprise even the stars." The pulse intensified, spreading from the shuttle through the nebula, wrapping around the approaching fleet. The alien ship faltered, then halted completely. Its light flickered, unsure, as if the human heart inside a human body was bending its rules. Lyra reached out and touched his chest, glowing lines intertwining with his. "It's working," she whispered. "It's not me," Ethan said, feeling the warmth of her essence flow into his own. "It's us." The fleet hovered for a tense moment. Then slowly, the massive ship retreated, dissolving into the nebula like mist blown away by the wind. Lyra sank into Ethan's arms, trembling, tears spilling freely. I'm safe," she whispered. "No," Ethan corrected gently, holding her close. "You're alive. You're free." For a long moment, they held each other. Two beings from entirely different worlds connected by something neither science nor rules could erase. Feeling. When Lyra finally pulled back, she looked into his eyes, her glow soft and warm. "You made me human," she said, voice shaking, "even when my kind tried to erase it." "And you taught me what it means to be brave," Ethan said softly. "Even when the universe says we're too small to matter, we matter. You and me, Lyra, we matter." A faint smile crossed her face. "Then what now?" Ethan thought for a moment, staring at the stars beyond the nebula. "Now, we live. We learn, we explore together," Lyra nodded. For the first time, she laughed, a soft musical sound that seemed to light up the entire shuttle. "Together," she repeated. They spent hours in silence after, staring out into the endless cosmos. The nebula drifted past, glowing faintly like a reminder of the danger they had survived. The glow beneath their skin pulsed in sync, a rhythm of life, of hope, of love that neither distance nor stars could sever. Lyra whispered, "I don't belong to my world anymore. I belong here. With you," Ethan held her hand tighter, "and I belong with you too." Somewhere far beyond the nebula, the recall fleet disappeared. They would not find her, not yet. And maybe they never would. But it didn't matter. Because Lyra had chosen and Ethan had chosen. They had crossed galaxies, defied the impossible, and in doing so, had proven what humans always had, that love, courage, and hope are stronger than any force in the universe. And for a moment, in the quiet light of the stars, human and alien, Earth and Andromeda, knew something unshakable. Even across galaxies, even beyond the rules of worlds, the human heart never stops fighting for the ones it loves. Lyra leaned her head on his shoulder, soft light radiating between them, and Ethan whispered, "We're home, now. Truly home." The stars shone brighter that night, as if the universe itself had agreed. And somewhere beyond the endless black, a human and an alien smiled together, finally free.